Hey y'all, it's Megan and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be doing a little sit down chat with you and talk all about my first year living in Maine. September 1st was actually the 1-year anniversary of me moving to Maine all the way from Texas, all by myself, kind of on a whim. I always knew that I wanted to move out of Texas, and when COVID hit and I got divorced and my work went remote, I was like, screw it, I'm moving to Maine, because I road tripped up here in 2019 and I just completely fell in love with it. Since then, a lot of my YouTube content has been focused on living in New England and living in Maine, and I've gotten a lot of people finding me because they also want to move to Maine or the area, and I get questions fairly frequently about what it's like, if I have tips, all that kind of stuff about moving from a completely different part of the country all the way up into New England. So today I hope that I can give you a little bit of insight, a couple of tips and tricks of what I've learned, especially if you're coming from not a winter climate like I came from Texas. So adjusting to the winters has been a real big deal. But I hope that I can provide like a little bit of help and get you inspired and motivated if moving to New England is something that you really want to do. So one question I get a lot is about housing and finding a place to live. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I ended up finding my first apartment in Maine. Basically, when I road tripped up here, I stayed in an Airbnb. I stayed in a couple actually, like as I was traveling, and when I decided I wanted to move, I reached out to those people first and I asked if by any chance I could rent their room for a month or two while I got up here, got settled, and all that kind of stuff, just to see if they were open to it. And one person in specific, luckily, was like, yeah, you can absolutely rent this room that you were in, or I also have a full apartment on the first floor of my house that I rent out in the summer for Airbnb, but you could have it for the whole winter. So I ended up finding that apartment that I lived in for the first 8 months through Airbnb. Luckily, it just happened to work out. Housing up here, I found, can be very tricky, especially as I was looking for my first real apartment, not a seasonal rental, which I live in now. And I was constantly on Craigslist, Facebook, any kind of like private listings, because especially if you're looking for places on the coast or near the cities, it's very, very expensive. So if you're on a budget, I mean, I was checking Craigslist 2, 3, 4 times a day, and as soon as I saw something go live, I would email them. And I would also email with more information about myself, just to kind of like sell myself, instead of just, is this apartment still available? I would email, you know, a little bit about my situation, how I earn my money, what I do for work, my resume with a picture of me, and kind of just give some details about how I am as a tenant, to kind of sell myself and make me stand out from the crowd of emails that are just like, is this still interested? Because they get a million of those a day, so you really want to kind of do something to make you stand out. When I found my current apartment, I ended up having to move a little bit away from the coast, so I'm more in like the rural part of Maine. I live near Lake Sebago, if you're familiar with the Lakes region. It's about 40 minutes to get to Portland, which is not completely prohibitive. I still work in my original town of Saco. Saco and Biddeford is where I was living before, and I got a job there, and then I moved out, and I've just been commuting back and forth. Okay, now let's talk about winter. My first winter in Maine was, according to the locals, extremely mild. We had like a couple of good snowstorms, but it was nothing crazy, again, according to them. To me, it was more snow than I've ever seen in my whole life. So here's some things tips and tricks that I picked up from Mainers and from New Englanders that told me how to survive my first real winter, even though it wasn't a real winter. Whatever, it was still a real winter to me. So first of all, I got 2 snow brushes, one for in my house, one to live in my car so I didn't have to go back and forth or get stuck without one. 2, apparently in the winter when you're expecting a snowstorm, you put your windshield wiper blades up in the upright position so they don't get locked underneath a layer of snow. I didn't end up changing my tires out because I was living kind of in a city where they would plow regularly, but now that I live out in the country, I'm going to get better tires. That was a really good tip that I was told. I also am going to be making a kind of emergency kit in case I'm snowed into my house for a couple of days. So that'll include water, candles, soup, food that's non-perishable, things that I can just have kind of stowed away as a 2 to 3 day emergency kit in case I get stuck in my home and in case the power goes out. Luckily, my current apartment is like one big house that's divided up into 3 units, and the owners have already told me that they bring out generators if for some reason the power goes out for an extended amount of time. But those are good questions to ask as far as when you're picking a place to move. Is heat included? What is the plan if the heat goes out for a long time? And is snow plowing included? Is shoveling included? Because if you're not used to snow, those are things that you're going to have to be aware of, because not everyone is going to plow and snow everything for you. So you might have to make a contingency plan. In general though, there is so much that I love about New England. I'm so glad that I moved here. I don't foresee myself leaving New England anytime soon. I love how you can just hop around to different states. It takes me an hour and a half to get to Boston. It takes me a couple hours to get to Vermont. It takes me 45 minutes to get to New Hampshire. There's so much in Maine that I haven't seen yet. And I love that I can just kind of skip around to all these cool little places and keep exploring, because especially coming from a huge giant state like Texas that is basically inescapable, it's a really big difference to just be able to hop over into New Hampshire to basically run an errand and then come back home. That completely blows my mind, and it tickles me every time I get to do that. Okay, now let's get into some like short little tips and tricks, things that I've learned that I would definitely share with people that are moving from another area completely out of New England. Number 1, if you're moving from a larger city, be prepared for a mindset shift, because you are moving to small town New England and it's different. Things close very early, even earlier in the winter. The town that I lived in, the Saco Biddeford area, things lock up 8, 9 p.m. all the time. So be aware of that. Check the times before you leave the house. Check times if you're planning something for your day, because you never know when things are gonna close. Some of this I think was due to COVID, but a lot of it is just that the mentality is different up here, especially in the winter. So I've made it the full year cycle now. I've been here for a summer. I saw it completely come alive, all the tourists, all the out-of-state plates, and things opening up. Like, there are business types that are only open during the summer. My hotel that I work at is an example of something that's only open during the summer. Ice cream shops, hamburger stands, seafood restaurants. All these little places will pop up and come alive during the summer when the tourists are here, and then they close down for the winter. So just being aware that you might not have access to all things at all times of the year or all times of the day and night. If you're moving from an area with regional cuisine, be prepared to learn how to make it yourself. Or go without. I moved from Texas. I miss Tex-Mex, real Tex-Mex, and barbecue all the time. Oh my gosh, I miss Southern food so much. I am starting to learn how to cook a little bit more and to have those things in my home, but man, what I wouldn't give for a really, really good like enchilada plate and a bowl of queso and chips, because the Mexican food restaurants up here, number 1, are rare, and number 2, finding a good one is a challenge. So if you're coming from an area where you really love the food, maybe start prepping some recipes so that you can make them in your home and have that taste of, you know, nostalgia. Another thing in the same vein of that, like, personally, I love sweet tea, and it's not really available up here. So I always, 99% of the time, have sweet tea available in my own fridge, because I need it. If you're moving from the south or somewhere that's really hot, you're gonna love the summer up here. I wore a sweater 3 times this July. 3 times. It was cold enough to wear a sweater in July, and I loved it. Now, there were still a couple of days that got hot, and the thing about up here is not all places have ceiling fans and air conditioning. Sometimes especially with like historical houses and older buildings and stuff, they don't have that because is cool enough typically to get away without it. So if you're used to ceiling fans, if you can't sleep without a fan, or if it's a concern about, you know, where you're moving into, make sure that they're air conditioned, make sure that they have fans available, or that you're picking them up and bringing them yourself, because even if you're used to 115, 120 degree summers, 90 degrees up here when there's no AC, it still feels hot. So just know that it can be hot in Maine, even though typically it's very lovely. One thing that I love to do and have tried to train myself to do is to carry cash on me, because especially in the warmer months, you will just be driving and there will be yard sales, antique sales, farm stands, all these little pop-up things along the side of the road that you can stop and shop and find cool things, find yummy food, find vegetables, produce, you know, milk from the farm, baked goods, all this stuff. They have markets all the time up here, and it's so cool. And a lot of them do take cards, but it's just nice to like have a little bit of cash on you in case you want to like grab something really quick and they don't take cards for some reason. It's very small town energy, but I love just driving by and like stopping to pick something up. There's a farm stand that I drive by every day on my way to and from work, and I try to stop there on Sundays to get just a little treat and some flowers or something for my home to like start my week off right. And it's really, really nice. So if you love that kind of like charming roadside stuff, you're gonna be in heaven up here. And of course, there's like a million tiny little things that you'll only learn from living up here, you know, about having layers, a good pair of snow boots, a really good snow shovel, because you're probably gonna have to do some snow shoveling at some point in time. Maine, you know, remembering to carry in your reusable bags, because Maine has a 5-cent bag fee at grocery stores and stuff like that, if they even have bags to sell you. So getting into the habit of having a reusable grocery bags, getting into the habit of recycling your cans and stuff, because they charge you a bottle deposit for all cans and bottles. I mean, it's very like eco-minded a lot of times. One of my favorite things about living up here is that they have laws against billboards, which coming from a big city was a total change, because up here there are no billboards to obstruct your view of the trees and of just like the natural beauty, which is so amazing. One of the things I love most about here for sure. And my last tip before I wrap it up, my best advice is to make friends with locals, make friends with people that have lived here forever. You know, really try and find community. The first like 6-ish months that I lived here were so isolating. It was still like hardcore into COVID. I didn't have a car, I was working from home, and it was very tough being by myself and moving to an area where I had no friends and family. So if that is your situation, where you're single, you're moving alone, whatever, or even if you're maybe with a partner and you're moving up here but you have no like friends or family or ties up here, really make an effort to get involved and get out and meet people. Even if you're at a restaurant, ask your waiter like, what are their recommendations, what are their like, you know, do they have any tips? Because most people really want to talk to you and they really want to share. They have a ton of experience that they can share with you. And then of course, once I like pulled myself out of that sad girl I'm all by myself funk, and I got my car and I got my job out of the house and I started dating and stuff, it felt so much better to just have people that could show me things and give me recommendations and show me how to like really live my best life in Maine off of the tourist path, because I want to be a New Englander. I want to feel like I live here and like this is my home. And it really took me like 9-10 months for that to happen, and I'm very thankful for the people that helped me kind of bridge that gap. So you've seen him in a couple of videos, but I have started dating someone who is a tried and true born and bred Mainer, and he's been showing me all these amazing things. We've gone fruit picking, we have so many plans of like fall and like winter activities. He's gonna show me the ropes and ensure my survival. That's not the only reason I'm dating him, I promise. But we went camping even, which I've never been camping in my life. It was like a canoe trip to camping, which is not something I thought I would do, but I did it and I had a great time, and I've just been really enjoying and loving living in Maine. So if you have questions about life in Maine or life in New England from an outsider's perspective, leave them in the comments below. I will try and answer any that you might have. I really do get requests for advice on moving to Maine all the time. So if you find this video, it's something you're thinking about doing, drop a comment. I will try and answer it the best I can, or get advice from someone else and repeat it to you so that you know, you're getting the best information possible. But it is 1000% a move that I do not regret. I'm so glad I did it, and I love living up here, and I'm excited to share more Maine content. I'm hoping to do more, especially this fall, with like apple picking and the Freiburg Fair, and just a bunch of fun stuff to show you more life in Maine and life in New England. So if that is something you're interested in, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you hit the like. If you want more day in the life, behind the scenes fun stuff, you can follow me on Instagram at ColorfulMegan, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.